guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on Harry Potter and the Cursed Child by J.K. Rowling, Jack Thorne, and John Tiffany. This is the 8th Harry Potter book, and this is a screenplay. The play is currently being done in London, and for those of us that unfortunately can't go there and see the play was written out and so that we can read it, which is pretty fantastic. This book is set 19 years after the Battle of Hogwarts, and we are following Harry Potter's son, Albus Severus Potter. This is going to be mainly a spoiler review. I already did a video vlog of my reading Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, so I'll go ahead and link that down below. It is completely spoiler free. So the biggest thing going into this book is to remember that this is a play, so the pacing is much quicker. It is very heavy in dialogue. It's structured very differently. Another important thing to remember is that J.K. Rowling didn't write this book. There are two other authors that collaborated, and this is mainly J.K. Rowling's ideas and her plot. So you can definitely tell it's not J.K. Rowling's writing. I didn't enjoy the writing, and I also found myself having trouble connecting with the characters because you can tell that the characters aren't necessarily themselves. There are definitely times where Harry, Ron, Hermione had conversations and they don't sound like themselves, and so that is kind of a big thing, and it kind of gives it the lack of the Harry Potter feel. There is a new character that's introduced. This new character is fantastic, but otherwise the plot itself I really enjoyed. I originally gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars, but after kind of writing down my notes and getting all my thoughts together, I'm debating if I want to give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy the story, but there are some areas that should have been maybe fleshed out a little bit better, but it feels amazing to re-enter the world of Harry Potter. I loved being able to go back to Hogwarts, and I loved seeing all of the characters from the original series. One thing that is important, you cannot read this book if you haven't read the books or watched the movies. You're not going to understand what's going on. You can't just pick up on this book, unfortunately. Okay, so if you haven't read this book, then I highly suggest watching my vlog video and then going to read it and then come back, watch the rest of my review, and we will discuss it together. So let's dive into the rest of the review, and this all contains spoilers. Okay, probably my favorite thing is the fact that page 1, we start the book at King's Cross, and we are picking up exactly where we left off in the epilogue of the 7th Harry Potter book, which was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. So we're not missing anything. We see Harry, Ginny, and their 3 children. This is going to be Albus Severus Potter's first year at Hogwarts, and right now he's having a lot of anxiety and he's worried that he might be placed into Slytherin. Then we see Ron and Hermione approach with their children. Ron and Hermione, their oldest daughter Rose is the same age as Albus. I'm not sure how I feel about Rose at this point. She kind of has this like snobby air to her. She knows she's a Granger Weasley and she knows she's important and she doesn't want her reputation tarnished. You get this sense because when they board the Hogwarts Express, Albus makes a new friend, and that is Malfoy's son, Scorpius. And Scorpius is my favorite character in this book. He is funny, he's smart, he's a great character. He reminded me a lot of kind of a mixture between Ron and Harry. He kind of just like lets Albus make all the decisions like Ron did, but then he also is really brave and he wants to do the right thing like Harry. So he's a really good mix of character traits. So basically Rose does not want to sit in the same train as Scorpius, but Albus really doesn't care, so Albus and Scorpius basically become friends, and I just had a flashback of Ron and Harry becoming friends on the Hogwarts Express their first year. So we get to Hogwarts. This surprised me, but Albus actually gets sorted into Slytherin. This book is all about kind of what ifs. What ifs you know, this had happened to Harry. So like, what if Harry had become friends with Draco Malfoy at the beginning of, you know, the very beginning of Harry Potter? And so now we have his son befriending Malfoy's son. And what if Harry had been put into Slytherin? Well, now we have his son placed in Slytherin. And I know I'm kind of skipping up ahead, but we also have that Act 3 where what if Harry Potter had died? Okay, so since this is a play, obviously things are moving really quickly. We basically go from, I want to say it's year 1 to year 4. We get more of a sense of Albus's character, and oh my god, he is so bratty and he is selfish and he doesn't understand the consequences of his actions, and he's kind of mean and malicious. I had so much trouble connecting with Albus Potter. There is a scene where Harry really tries to connect with him and basically gives him his baby blanket, and this is Harry's most treasured possession. It's the blanket that he was left on the doorstep at Private Drive that his parents gave to him, and he thinks that it's going to be, you know, a really good sentiment to give his blanket to Albus. He wants to give him something that is meaningful, and he's trying to connect with him, and Albus pretty much just throws it on the ground, and a magic love potion falls on his blanket and kind of ruins it. After that scene, I didn't think there was going to be any redeeming quality from Albus. I was so upset with him. So then we skip to a really important scene where Amos Diggory, this is Cedric Diggory's dad, shows up at Harry's house really late in the evening, and he pretty much has this crazy idea of using the time turner. By the way, so Hermione is now Minister of Magic, and she has confiscated a time turner, and she's trying to keep it safe in the Ministry of Magic. But basically Amos finds out that he thinks that Harry has this time turner, and he has this psycho idea of going back into time and saving Cedric. So much happens because of Cedric's death. I mean, it's like one of the biggest things that motivated Harry. But of course, Albus overhears, and Albus, being the bratty, not understanding kid that he is, he's just so over Harry Potter, the boy who lived, the famous Harry Potter title. He really doesn't want any people to notice him. He doesn't like when his dad is noticed. So as of right now, his actions aren't, you know, to do the right thing. They're kind of not necessarily get back at his dad, but to, he's just not understanding the horrors that Harry had to go through, and Harry didn't choose this life. He didn't want to be famous, you know, he didn't want to be the chosen one. He was a baby when all of this happened, so Albus just does not get that. So he decides he's going to take it upon himself, and with Amos's niece Delphi, along with Scorpius, to steal the time turner from Hermione, the Minister of Magic, and go back in time and save Cedric Diggory. Okay, now at this point, I think the plot is nuts. I'm loving it. It is really creative. Traveling back in time gets really finicky, and so you have to be really careful, and that's where I think maybe the plot had some plausibility and some parts that I didn't think were necessarily realistic, which is stupid because Harry Potter isn't realistic, it's all magic. But there are some parts in this book that I didn't think was realistic to the Harry Potter world. Like, sometimes the way Harry acted, I'm like, he would never act like that. Like, that's not Harry Potter. Back to trying to get the time turner. First of all, this Delphi chick, I don't know who the hell she thinks she is, but she is crazy. I never really trusted her, especially when she mentioned that she never went to Hogwarts because she was really ill. Basically, the trio decides to use Polyjuice Potion and turn into Ron, Hermione, and Harry, and go into Hermione's office to steal the time turner. Now, I really loved the scene with the time turner in Hermione's office. First of all, Hermione, really, come on, using the bookshelf as your hiding spot, it's like so dumb. So dumb. Where else would Hermione Granger hide something? We find out how really talented and smart Scorpius is. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Scorpius is like a really good mixture with like Hermione's intelligence. So they're able to steal the time turner, and they decide to go back to the Triwizard Tournament to save Cedric. Okay. So now we're going on to Act 2. They decide to go to the very first challenge, which was the Dragon Challenge, and sabotage Cedric's chance to win. So they're dressed in the Durmstrang robes. They figured this is the best way to kind of conceal themselves. Well, they end up bumping into Hermione, young Hermione. They sabotage his chances of winning. So now we go back to the present, and everything has changed. Ron and Hermione are not married. Rose and the rest of Hermione and Ron's kids do not exist. Hermione is just this really mean professor. Albus is in Gryffindor now. They didn't even save Cedric. And Harry Potter is just a total prick. He is mean to Jenny. He is so disrespectful to Professor McGonagall. He calls her by her first name, Minerva, which I don't think we have ever heard Harry call Professor McGonagall by her first name. Now he wants to keep his son kept away from Scorpius, his best friend, because he thinks that Scorpius is like a black cloud, especially since now that his scar is hurting. He is very, very worried that Lord Voldemort might be coming back. He's having dreams. He's hearing his name like Voldemort used to call it. And not to mention, there is rumors about Scorpius being the son of Lord Voldemort. So really Harry is just not wanting them two to be friends at all, and him and Albus, their relationship is pretty much just shattered at this point. I think Albus finally realizes the consequences of his actions, like what he did, especially when him and Scorpius get into a fight, because Scorpius is most upset about the fact that pretty much Rose doesn't exist, and he is just so distraught by this, and Albus is kind of understanding the severity of it, but not as much as Scorpius. So Scorpius basically puts him in his place. He's like, look, this thing with your dad, you need to stop. You need to stop being selfish. Get over yourself. Like, we've got real problems here. I think that was a really good turning point for him. So they try to figure out exactly kind of what changed in history so they know how to change it back. And it's explained that when they bumped into Hermione, she thought that it was the Durmstrangs that sabotaged Cedric, and so she ended up not going to the dance with Victor Crumb. I don't really see how that would affect Ron and Hermione from being together, because they said how the biggest thing is like their jealousy between one another, and it was the jealousy that kind of sparked them to be together. But the jealousy didn't really start until more of the 6th book, when Ron started dating Lavender, and that's really when Hermione became extremely jealous. And I mean, Ron was jealous of Hermione with Victor Crumb, but you know, there had to be jealousy from Hermione's point as well. I guess maybe that didn't happen. I don't know. So I think there were too many factors that could have kept Hermione and Harry together. I don't necessarily think like Hermione not going to the dance with Victor Crumb would be the deal breaker between them. Plus, there is a scene in this act when Ron and Hermione run into each other, and Ron tells Hermione he thinks that her hair is really nice, or gives her a compliment, and it kind of makes her blush and realize that, you know, she has feelings for him. They just have this spark between them. I think Ron and Hermione were too headstrong and too great of friends, and they'd been through too much to not end up being together. I didn't find that scenario plausible at all. Okay, so now we're going on to Act 3, and Act 3, it was my favorite act. So then these boys have a brilliant idea to go back in time to fix what they screwed up. So they decide to go back to the 2nd challenge and pretty much humiliate Cedric out of the Triwizard Tournament. They're able to achieve that, and we go back into the present, and Scorpius finds himself alone. Albus Severus Potter no longer exists. And Umbridge, what the hell is Umbridge doing back? In case you don't know, Umbridge is one of my favorite villains. And they are celebrating Voldemort Day because Voldemort is alive and Harry Potter was killed at the Battle of Hogwarts. I almost lost it. We now get this scenario of what if Harry had died and Voldemort survived. Scorpius Scorpius finds out that he is a bully in school. He is considered the Scorpion King, and he's pretty much following in Draco Malfoy's footsteps. And Draco Malfoy now tortures muggles. So the thing with Draco's character is that he's really easily swayed, and he's a pansy. So he turned to the good side when Harry won, and when Voldemort won, he turned to the bad side. So Scorpius learns that Severus Snape is alive, and he is professor at Hogwarts. He leads him to Hermione and Ron, and the three of them try and get Scorpius back to the present. In doing so, we see Ron and Hermione die, and we see Severus Snape die again. But we are able to get back to the present. Albus Potter is now alive, and the two boys are found by Ginny, Draco, Hermione, Ron, and Harry, and Professor McGonagall. This is my favorite part in the book, when McGonagall pretty much just backslaps everyone and puts them all in their place. And she tells Harry how stupid he is, and Hermione even worse, like she's pretty much like, how could you be so dumb and keep a time turner in your bookshelf? I love it. She puts them all in their place, and it is fantastic. She's really the one character that I felt was truly like herself. She really seemed like Professor McGonagall. So the adults ask the boys to hand over the time turner, and Scorpius says he lost it. So now the adults are freaking out, and they're trying to go find the time turner. Turns out Scorpius lied, and he does have the time turner, but he feels like they should be the one to destroy it. Scorpius is so distraught with what he saw in the second scenario that he wants to be sure he's the one to destroy the time turner. So the two boys go to destroy the time turner, and then who shows up but Delphi? And that's when I knew. That is when I knew that, okay, she is definitely on the dark side. Albus was stupid, and he owled Delphi. She gets a hold of the time turner, and they realize that she is a Death Eater. And not only is she a Death Eater, but she is Voldemort's daughter. What? That I didn't see coming. Like, what? And to top it all off, her mom is Bellatrix Lestrange. What the hell? How did no one see this in all of the 7 books? She decides to take him back into time, and they go to the maze of the Triwizard Tournament. At that point, they run into Cedric. Now Albus realizes how much of Cedric's death is imperative to how the present time is. Delphi brings them even further back into time, into 1981. They're in Godric's Hollow, and they realize that they are back in time because Delphi is here to kill baby Harry Potter. In the meantime, the adults figure out that the boys are missing again, and all of a sudden Draco just shows up, and he's like, you know, I have a time turner as well. Like, what the heck? And all of a sudden he just like shows up at like the most convenient time with a time turner. That part of it didn't really seem plausible whatsoever. But then again, I mean, a lot of times when Harry didn't die was just like pure sheer dumb luck. Harry basically decides no, he doesn't want to tamper with time. He wants to let the boys, basically, he's like, it's in their hands now, what happens to us? And honestly, like, this didn't seem to be a Harry Potter action. He always had to do what was right to save the world and to save them from Voldemort. And so when he had to jump into action, he would. This is one of those times he should be jumping into action. Like, that's what Harry Potter is all about. And he's just sitting there and he's like, no, we don't even know where to start. We don't even know where they are. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you were able to find all these Horcruxes without knowing anything, like nothing to go on. The three of them, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, figured out a way to defeat Voldemort when they were 17 years old. And you can't figure out like what master plan Delphi has. Okay, so now Albus and Scorpius need to figure out a way to send a message to the adults, and they see baby Harry with his parents, and Harry's wrapped up in his baby blanket. So Albus gets this genius idea to use the baby blanket and send a message to Harry. So Harry ends up getting the message and they end up using the time turner and going back to 1981. I'm not sure so much how I feel about this ending. They decide to transfigure Harry into Voldemort. So they have this like discussion in the church about who is going to be Voldemort. And Harry's like, guys, it's obvious, it has to be me. She's gonna speak in Parseltongue. It's gotta be me. Of course, it has to be Harry. Delphi takes the bait and they're able to pretty much capture her. I really thought that we would have had a little bit more of a epic battle between Delphi and all of the others. I wish Delphi would have put up a little bit more of a fight, because if she's Voldemort's daughter, then you'd think she'd be able to fight and she'd have like some strength to her. Before they decide to go back into the present, Harry really wants to see his parents, and pretty much we witness their death, and that got to me a little. That's where I like the idea of the time travel, because we're able to revisit so many parts of Harry Potter. We get back to present time and everything goes back to how it was, and Harry and Albus are able to really make amends, and they're trying to build a father-son relationship. Harry brings him to Cedric's grave. He wanted to show Albus that he does think about Cedric, and Cedric's death really had an impact on him. So all in all, I really did enjoy. I mean, the idea of going back into time and having different scenarios of what if is fantastic. It's tricky though, and I feel like some areas should have been really fleshed out better. I really wish we would have seen maybe like Sirius Black. Neville's mentioned a few times and we never see him, and I kind of wish that maybe Delphi would have brought them throughout Harry's childhood. Albus could have seen how horrific Harry's childhood really was. Alright, so that is pretty much it for my review on Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. This video is going to be so long. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Comment down below, discuss as much as you like. I hope you have a great evening, and I will see you next time with another video. Bye!